You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Because you can handle the truth.
The Nighttime Ride of the Paul Revere of Talk Radio. Uncensored, radio-free America. Rick Adams is back.
No, the future's already there. It's irrevocable. It cannot be changed.
All right. Well, we'll find out about that, won't we? Our guest, again, is Eustace Mullins, and the book that he authored, among others, of course, The Secrets of the Federal Reserve. And, Eustace, we have people on the line that would like to ask a question or speak to you. Are you ready?
Oh, yes, indeed.
All right. Our number toll-free is 800-313-9443. That's all you have to do is dial toll-free, 800-313-9443 to be on Uncensored Radio Free America. And I'm your host, Radio Avenger Rick Adams. Hello, Kevin in Ohio. How are you?
Hello, good evening.
Yes, good evening to you, sir.
Eustace, I'd like to ask your opinion on a couple authors.
All right.
And what you consider their work to be, the quality of their work. Dr. John Coleman.
Oh, Dr. John Coleman is one of the greatest con artists that ever hit this country. I've known him for years. He's attacked me publicly a number of times. And, well, one reason I was critical of him, he was stealing a lot of my stuff, but he stole most of his stuff from Lyndon LaRouche. And Lyndon LaRouche was so angry that he contemplated suing him until he found out that no one who's ever sued John Coleman has ever got 1 penny in return.
Of course, the information we have is that he was in British intelligence before, and he puts out the story that he's no longer in British intelligence. So should we assume that he still is part of the British intelligence establishment?
Well, except that he never was in British intelligence. He says in some of his writings that he got all of his information at the British Museum in London, which is where my mentor, Ezra Pound, started out in 1900. So you can get a lot of information there, but he never has documented anything he's ever written. So he puts out some very fanciful stories, which people found very interesting and they get very excited about. But there's not a shred of documentation behind it.
He has his publications, too, that
he has his publications, which are as imaginary as most of his conclusions.
That's interesting what you say. Go ahead, Kevin, another question?
Okay, what about Anthony Sutton?
Tony Sutton I knew quite well. He was part of the Hoover Institution in California, which Condoleezza Rice is one of the people from Stanford. She's now our Secretary of State. Tony was a pretty good guy. He wrote a book called Wall Street and the Rise of Hitler and Wall Street and the Rise of Bolshevism.
The Bolshevik Revolution, yeah.
That both of those isms were totally the creation of Wall Street bankers, which they were. They also created Zionism and fascism. So they're a pretty inventive lot.
So you respect the quality of his work, then?
Oh, yes, Tony's a good writer. His books are still in circulation.
He's just passed away a few years ago.
He passed away. I knew him in his last years.
Right.
And his books have been reissued by other people now, and they're circulating. And, well, he's the one who originated the research on skull and bones, which created the Bush dynasty. And the Bushes themselves, as I pointed out in my book, The World Order, were simply lackeys of the Harriman company, the Harriman brothers, our father and son, rather, who created the Northern Pacific Railroad. And they in turn were entirely financed by the Rothschilds. So was John D. Rockefeller, the Standard Oil Corporation. The Rockefellers were always financed by the Rothschilds at National City Bank of Cleveland. And they were both financed by Kuhn Loeb of New York, which was the principal Rothschild office in the United States.
Does that answer your questions, Kevin?
Oh, okay. What about Fletcher Prouty?
Oh, Fletcher Prouty was a good friend of mine. He was a great patriot. He really, his works were so good that the CIA bought up his first book and destroyed it. And it finally was produced as Oliver Stone's JFK movie. And it was a darn good movie. It was very successful. And so I thought I asked Fletcher Prouty, it was so successful, maybe he could do a movie about my Federal Reserve System. And he said that he had such a trouble, Oliver Stone had such trouble getting the JFK movie past the Time Warner crowd that he would never try it again.
And look what happened with our buddy Hutton Gibson's son, Mel Gibson.
Oh, Mel, they really...
He wanted to do a movie, and he started talking about the Federal Reserve, and he said, I don't want to go any further because I think I'd like to live a little longer.
Well, Martin Downey Jr. was the hottest star on television, and he had the fastest-growing television show in the United States. And so a friend of mine got me to appear on his show, and he did an hour show about the Federal Reserve System. And the next day, all of his advertising contracts were
Isn't that
canceled.
something?
They were well. I've ruined a lot of people. I don't want to scare you, but a lot of talk shows have gone off the air after I've been on them.
Well, I'll probably be on that list at some point.
Well, you're going to get some pressure anyway. And
well,
so,
not directly, but I can understand indirectly. There are a lot of dangers.
Oh, it would be indirect, yes.
Yeah, there are
Paul
dangers.
Mountain Johnny never worked again. You know, he died flat broke. And
I remember his show. I remember
it was a great show. Morton was a great guy.
In the 80s, wasn't it?
Yes. This is in the 80s, a good 20 years ago.
In fact, I think I remember you going on the show. And
well, some people still have tapes of that show, by the way.
Yeah. Excellent points. All right, Kevin, any other questions?
Yes. Eustace, what about Professor Oliver Revillo?
Revillo.
Oh, Revillo, he was a good friend of mine. He was one of the greatest classical scholars in the United States, and Revillo was true to his last day on earth. And he was a good friend of mine. I visited his home in Champaign, Illinois, where he was a professor, and he was simply a great guy.
All right. Thank you, Kevin.
Okay.
Good questions. Appreciate it. 800-313-9443 is the number.